Hello and welcome to JFS Talk. My name is Glenn Field and I'm filling in for Clara Kesey because I wanted to do this episode here so that I get the opportunity to learn, you understand, about menopause. And I was able to bring in an expert on the field, Miss Renee Crichlow, and she will be able to share some meaningful information in this episode about managing menopause. Miss Crichlow, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Now, how long have you been working in this particular field?
Well, I would say officially, I was in this field for about 3 years roughly. I got my certification in 2022, and then I did my master's, and my dissertation was perimenopause in the workplace.
Lord have mercy.
Yes.
Master's and dissertation.
Yes.
All right. So have you been enjoying working in the field?
Yeah, I have been enjoying it. It is a bit challenging because every woman is different. So one woman will present with one thing, another woman can present with something else. It's like every day trying to figure out what's the best approach.
Well, Lord have mercy. But see, this is the same thing that I had to deal with because Muriel, my wife, when Muriel is going through the menopause, I couldn't understand what to do. And in fact, some days I just try to understand what she wear. You understand?
Yeah.
So this opportunity now for me to learn, albeit a little too late, but I may be able to help some of the other youngsters know coming up with how they be able to support the mistress when this thing going on.
Yeah.
So we get into talking about your field and what you do, but I think we should first define what is menopause.
So, what people call menopause is not actually menopause.
What?
So, yes, what people say is menopause is not actually menopause.
What?
So, we have perimenopause. So, that is the phase where all of the fun stuff happens with the hot flashes, brain fog, night sweats, weight gain, things like that.
Large.
And then menopause is that one day that a woman has not seen her period for 12 consecutive months.
Oh.
Just one day, and then after that, she's postmenopausal.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
You see, that is the sort of definition that we needed because I can rest assured that most people did not know that.
Correct.
So as it relates to the perimenopause, you just listed a number, I think it's there just now. And you also would have mentioned before that some people experience things differently to others.
Yeah.
Are there certain things that would be more prevalent? You hear that word? That might be more prevalent with some ladies rather than others?
Well, as I say, it depends because some women, I would say the main ones that you would hear about will be the night sweats, the brain fog, the hot flashes. Some women will say complain about vaginal dryness, and the main one that will happen to all women is that they're going to have a change in their period. But with that being said, though, when women are transitioning, I'm talking about this as a natural transition because there's some women that are going to be put into surgical menopause. So that's when they have the hysterectomy. So all of these symptoms then come like a category 5 hurricane for some of these women. It can be, So if for them, there's some of them that are put into chemical menopause. So like ladies that have endometriosis and gynecological issues where they have to be on certain medications that can put them into chemical menopause. So when I talk about the brain fog and hot flashes and things like that, usually I'm referring to the natural transition and not necessarily where women are, for lack of a better word, pelt into this thing.
So when they got the transition that is natural, they're more likely to have those particular symptoms.
Some women will have them and some women will not. And a lot of it depends on how women manage stress, what movement they're doing, and also how they are eating. Yeah.
You see, I find that everything goes back to nutrition and how people are moving. So you can lend me some assistance then in understanding how the two of those interventions, Lord, boy, I didn't read the dictionary, see? How the two of those interventions can be helpful in the management of these symptoms.
Right. So let me go back a little bit. So people can so women can understand and men can understand what usually happens during perimenopause.
Yes.
So A woman that has a normal menstrual cycle, so that is the first day that you bleed up to the day before you bleed again. So your period is part of your menstrual cycle, so it's not your menstrual cycle.
Yes.
So you have two main hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Most of the times we think of these as just sex hormones that will affect ovaries, uterus, things like that. But we got a lot of different receptors all over in your brain, joints, everywhere. So think of it like these receptors are like car parking lots in a car park, and estrogen is those cars that can slot into all of these parking spaces.
Yes. That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, so the thing is that a woman's body is accustomed to getting that, so she's going to be getting different levels every month. So estrogen is going to be high in the follicular phase, so that's the first phase.
Yes.
It will drop a bit, and then the luteal phase, once she ovulates, they will get progesterone. So these two hormones, I call them sister hormones. So these two hormones will help women in terms of being able to tolerate carbohydrates well, being able to tolerate stress, being able to sleep, having a good mood, things like that. So what has happened now is when we are transitioning, those start to drop. But the thing is, progesterone, she gently going out, leaving the scene. Like she say, yeah, I just gradually leaving. But estrogen, sometimes she don't know if she want to leave, if she want to stay. So sometimes one month she will be very high, other months she can be low. So it's like you going up on top, hill or chalky mount, and then next thing she drop in a gully.
Lord.
So it's because of that fluctuation that is where women will experience some of these symptoms. Yeah, so a lot of it, and the other thing that usually happens in the body when we are going through this transition, inflammation naturally goes up.
Yes. That's a very comprehensive explanation. She knows what she's talking about, she's an expert. So when the inflammation goes up, then what has happened?
So there are certain things that will happen, because sometimes you could group some of these symptoms related to inflammation, related to gut issues, pelvic floor issues, and the whole weight gain and things like that.
Yes.
So when you have the inflammation, that could look like joint issues that a woman might have. So she might wake up. Sometimes women would say they wake up one morning and realize that the knees hurting. Yeah, because proper over season coming around is like, Lord, my knees ain't handling it no more. That happened to me last year.
That happened to you?
Yes, my knee. I get her KFC Black Rock, and my knees were like, girl, we done. We done. So I don't know if that was part of the transition, but a lot of things happen. So when you're inflamed, that is when a lot of these symptoms will happen. So there's a lot of encouragement for women to engage in an anti-inflammatory diet.
Oh, yes. I hear about that one. Muriel used to ball out for she knees and thing too. But I didn't know what to tell she about the anti-inflammatory diet. So tell me a little bit more about that.
So the anti-inflammatory diet is basically doing the things that we know from kindergarten reception age. Eat your fruits, eat your vegetables, drink your water, eat good carbohydrates, because I find women try to run from that. You still have to eat good carbohydrates and get good lean sources of protein, whether it's animal-based or plant-based. And hydrate. Drink water.
Drink your water.
Yes, drink your water. But those basics every single person knows, and that is what will help with the inflammation. But unfortunately, we don't do it. So that's then when everything again flare up. And during this phase, as I would tell some women, if you are eating things like chips and chicken on Friday night with macaroni salad at the side, soft drinks, sweet biscuits, pastries, like from the bread van that is come around on morning.
Yes.
During this phase, this is the phase for you to be playing around, because it's like you already inflamed. So think of your body like it's a campfire. And if you eat these things, it's like throwing gasoline on a campfire. So everything will be like, and
No.
you can get enough of the symptoms.
You got enough analogies though, and I realize all of them are very, very suitable. Yes, yes. So you mentioned earlier there about good
Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates.
Yes.
What constitutes a good carbohydrate?
I would say it would be more like a complex carbohydrate, because reality is everything is going to be broken down into sugar. So things like your ground provision.
Yes, Lord.
Them is the things that some of we grew up on. And the one that I love, I will categorize this as a ground provision too. Plantain is life.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
That is the one that is fairly good. Once an swimming in oil, how people is prepared. I'm afraid.
That's the problem
That's
there.
the problem there. So things like that, rice, especially brown rice, oats, even you will sometimes categorize some vegetables. They are categorized as carbohydrates as well, and they do have a source of fiber in them. So complex carbohydrates are those whole base foods that will not break down as fast, and it's going to take a bit more time compared to what we will call refined carbohydrates or processed foods, will be things like your cookies, your cakes, your sweet biscuits, some of these sweet cereals, soft drinks. All of those things will be refined carbohydrates, which are not good for us during this phase.
But the problem is there though, is that that's the most convenient foods to eat.
Convenient. Yeah, right now we live in a microwave type world where we want everything that is instant, but sometimes it is a matter of, if you want to go through all these symptoms, continue eating how you're eating. Or if you want to improve, you have to make the decision to do that, because one of the other things too with this transition phase, it is like a system upgrade. So for some people that work at organizations, sometimes they will do a system upgrade, everything got shut down. And if anything goes wrong in this upgrade, the next morning you can't log into nothing, you can't do anything.
Everything shut down.
Everything shut down. So this is also like your system upgrade, because your brain recalibrating, doing all different things. So this is the time for women to really pay attention to their health, because they have years ahead of them.
Yes.
So whatever you do now is going to impact what your life is going to look like later on.
That's the important thing to remember there, that you still got years ahead of you.
Exactly.
You understand? I think people see that when you reach the menopause, or even before that thing's going downhill. But you can still live life vibrantly. And in fact, I think I see something saying something along them lines before. Something about living vibrantly.
Yeah, you could still, because one of the other things too is that women, or even society, but these are kind of women hit 40, and I have heard this from other women. Because you have the psychosocial aspect of this whole transition, where sometimes women are told that it's time for them to shut up shop, put out to pasture. A lot of women are struggling with the fact that they are considered to be old, and then they start to act like that.
Right.
But the thing is, on the flip side, where I will tell women is that this is the phase that some of us tend to rediscover ourselves, to figure out what it is that we want to do, what we like, and get rid of all the roles as mother, wife, teacher, all these different things. It's about finding who she is as a person, and realize that you develop no filters and have the ability to say no to a lot of people. No, I ain't doing this. No. So that is the whole aspect of it as well.
I live life by your own rules.
Yeah, and live life how you want to live life. But we have to change the narrative, because in Eastern societies, they respect women when they get a certain age. In Western society, it's all about preserving youth, and you got to look young and things like that. But the thing is, when men get old and they get gray hair, it's called them silver foxes. That's something that's look real sweet.
All right.
But on the other hand, when women start to show a little bit of gray hair, it's like, oh, she old, she popped down. Nah, she ain't got no life. But I got some women in the 40s and 50s that got younger women beat.
Bad.
And it look good.
Yes.
So that's why I try to encourage women to yes, it's going to take a bit more work because of our changing hormones, and we don't have these sister hormones protecting us anymore and helping us, but it is still an opportunity for you now to really take care of your health. Because for me, when I get older, I want to be gallivanting.
You gallivanting?
Yeah, I want to be gallivanting. I want to be outside, going
But
on cruises and carnivals and things like that. Rub down the knees a little bit, but
Lord. So I guess you open the road, can do what they are think.
I ain't gonna be on the road, could do what there.
Uh-huh.
They might see me someplace else. But ain't everybody know it yet. They might see me someplace else, but I outside.
You outside?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier about the interventions like exercise and nutrition and how they're beneficial in managing the symptoms that women may feel. Right? You want to delve more into that here?
Yeah, so in terms of nutrition, so you're dealing with inflammation in the body, is going to help some of these symptoms because, as I mentioned, with estrogen declining, and you need the support. So nutrition is kind of like your backup soldiers.
Yes,
and you really got to implement a lot of those things. So, for example, I had a client that came to me because she was experiencing a lot of hot flashes, but her diet was full of sugary things. So she was drinking those the cappuccinos and eating chocolates and sweet biscuits and things like that. And all of that naturally will be inflaming the body and is an issue with blood sugar balance because we don't balance sugar that well. So you got the crashes, the highs and lows, because she was getting a hot flash probably about every hour, every single day.
Lord.
So within 2 weeks of trying to adjust the diet, she was now down to probably about one every day or every other day.
Nice.
Right. So that is one instance where having an anti-inflammatory diet and reducing a lot of the sugars can help with the hot flashes. And some of the things that women don't realize, or what research has said, the more you having hot flashes, that is increasing your risk of some form of dementia when you get older.
Oh.
So if you're flashing all the time, that is something that you really should pay attention to.
Okay then.
Yeah. Likewise with protein, increasing protein. And this is one of the hardest things for women to do. But if it is that you want to lose weight and tone up, also note that the fact that you have in perimenopause and menopause, because some of these things that I will talk about is applicable to when you are past the menopause, we're postmenopausal. So if you want to lose weight and tone up, the way to tone up is to build muscle.
Of course, yes.
And how you can build muscle, you need to include protein in your diet.
Yes.
Muscle is the thing that helps you to be snatched. So that is one of the other things. And protein not only helps with muscle, but it helps with all of the other hormones, because estrogen and progesterone, they do not operate in isolation. They operate with all of the different hormones. Protein is also needed for bone building as well. So it's not only calcium, you need protein to build your muscle, build your bones. And that is one of the other things that happen, that our bone density starts to decrease.
Yes.
So we need to do things like that. So that's just an example of nutrition helping women. In terms of exercise, again, building muscle, stimulating muscle, doing weight-bearing exercises to help again with the bone density. And sometimes it doesn't always have to be you doing a gym workout or anything like that. Things like dancing that will help to reduce some of these stress levels, and cortisol, which is contributing to the weight gain around your tummy and contributing to some of the other symptoms like night sweats.
Yes.
So,
see that baby real?
Yeah. So doing all of these different things, just making sure that you have the basics covered, and some of these symptoms will not happen or they will reduce significantly. But I know sometimes it might be hard, because if you're getting a zillion and one symptoms, you ain't got no time to wait for these things to change. But if you don't change anything, they will be there all the time. So you gotta start with something. And we know these things.
Sorry enough. that Muriel can talk to you when she did transitioning, you understand? Because she had the night sweats large, you understand?
Them things.
And I can tell she what to do, and nobody else can really. You see, the thing about it is that even though we might not talk too much about these things or want to know much about these things or the men in my age group, you understand? But I find in this time too, women, they used to talk about it a lot with other women neither.
That is true, because it's only about 6 or 7 years now that the conversations are happening. But back then it was, oh, it's a change in life. This is something you got to deal with on your own. And I have heard stories from other women that would have said that they might have known a woman in the village, she locked up in the house, head wrap up, and calling her a mad woman, not knowing that she was transitioning, trying to deal with these things. And the other thing too, that a lot of research says as well, that during this transition, the suicidal thoughts of women and depression go up. So that is why we women need the support, whether it be home, whether it be at work. We need the support, because we do function well with support. One of the things that will help us as well is oxytocin, that's a love hormone. So connection, laughter, touch, even sex.
But
that's what's helped.
I'm glad you said so, because I remember during the transition, as you know, call it, you know, I would go now to try to initiate a little bit with Muriel, but I find that she ain't too receptive, you know, and some days, you understand, I thought back then that she would just be a little miserable, you understand? But now I'm starting to understand things a little bit more. You can help me more to understand about the scenarios where the lady might be more receptive to touch and intercourse, as you just said, versus now the scenario where the fellas like me now would be in fear of getting cussed or getting pelt off. You understand?
And some of these things, sometimes I will say, is not just because of the transition. It could be things that were happening in the relationship before. And it's just that them surface and rise up, and she's like, you know what, I ain't about this no more. But the thing is, right, because there are going to be changes, a woman's sex drive could drop because of, again, the estrogen. Because, you know, when women going through ovulation, and we've seen a lot of things on Instagram and other social media, that when a woman going through ovulation is like she hunting for a man. So you understand. And that is going to decrease. So she might not necessarily want to have sex regularly, but there are other things that you could do to romance you a little bit and soften her up and have conversations. But if it is that you have a relationship where the communication is not that good, then that is where you will have a little bit of friction and problems. Can even encourage her to do her pelvic floor muscle exercises, because that brings some sensation and good feelings down there. So you do it.
You talk about this pelvic floor thing now. What was that there now?
All right, so the pelvic floor muscles, and a lot of women don't know what it look like. So
I should feel bad then?
No, you should feel bad, but I forget to bring the vag. If I bring the vag, I will be able to show you. But anyway, but we will slot it in.
Yes.
So the pelvic floor muscles are the muscles in they are called the vagina area. Right. And most people might be accustomed or know what they are if you stop the flow of urine where you have to contract, or for example, what I would tell my clients to do to find it, imagine that you're in an elevator and the elevator is small and your belly starting to rumble, and you know this can be a silent but deadly one. What are you going to do? You're going to squeeze. So when you squeeze, that is what contracting. So those are your pelvic floor muscles at high level. You got 2 different levels. Yes. So those are your pelvic floor muscles, and they have different functions. They have a sexual function. They have a supportive function where it's supporting all of the organs like the bladder, uterus, rectum. Yes. They also have stability because they are connected to your hips, so they help to stabilize you. They have the sump and pump function, where it's going to bring oxygen and nutrients to the pelvic floor region and remove things from that. And there is a fifth one. The fifth one is always, I can't remember the fifth one right now, but there are 5 functions.
But you're sure that you're human.
Yeah.
Even the experts can
Like,
forget
the
things.
fifth one does be like, Lord, what's the fifth one? But with the pelvic floor muscles as well, and the vulva, vagina, everything, they have a lot of estrogen receptors.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
estrogen also is what's helped to keep things moist.
See how you tie it back in now.
So it's keep things moist. So when a woman is transitioning, she might not be that moist, and that might be one of the reasons why she does not want to have sexual intercourse, because it can be painful for her.
Yes, I
and
understand.
she might take a bit longer to warm up, so to speak. So one of the things that women will realize as well is that if they laugh, cough, sneeze, jump, they might realize that they're releasing a little bit of the urine. And that is because the pelvic floor muscles are not strong enough.
Oh.
So it is a muscle just like your bicep muscle, just like your thighs. So if you don't use a muscle, you will lose the functionality of that. So right now it is portrayed as urinary incontinence. It is common, but it is not normal for you to be leaking.
Yes.
Yeah. And it can be embarrassing for women.
I would well imagine. So this is another one of these things then that women don't really talk about a lot.
No, they don't. They don't really talk about it because there is also some level of shame around it. Because if you know that you leaking urine, you don't necessarily want to reach out to somebody and say, well, I leaking a little bit of urine. I think I want some help. But once you start to fix that, you will not have to necessarily spend money on incontinence pads, because I could tell you, incontinence pads, back then, so there's a short little story. Back then, me and my sister, we had a cat. The cat was paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh, dear.
So we would have to help her to urinate. So we would have, sometimes when she was younger, we would buy the incontinence pads to make small diapers for her. And a pack of those, probably about 10 or 15, I think it was 10, was running you between $15 and $20 for a pack.
And then we got inflation now.
Yeah. So women that have urinary incontinence, they will use those urine incontinence pads, and that can add up a lot.
So when you run the finances then,
Yes.
it is way better to seek a preventative option
Yes.
than to have to rely on these pads.
Correct.
Okay. So from my understanding then, from looking at your profile, this is something that you specialize in, you pelvic floor work.
Yeah, that is another area that I specialize in. Yeah.
You do a lot of things.
Yes, women's health.
Yeah, but-
It's my area.
This is your expert here. So if people wanted to reach out to you to find out more, how they can find you?
So they can find me on Instagram at REAC Fitness. So that is REAC Fitness. No T, because that's sometimes people will put a T and they can't find me. So REAC Fitness. They can also contact me via WhatsApp, and that is 242-2850. And you can also go on beacons.ai/REAC Fitness. So that's beacon like a beacon.ai/REAC Fitness. And then you will see all of the links there for my IG, LinkedIn, my Substack newsletter if you want to subscribe as well.
Miss Crichlow, it was a pleasure to talk about this here with you. I learned a lot, and I can rest assured that anybody else that view this here or listen to it can learn a lot as well. And remember, this is not something that we should keep silent. This is a topic that we should speak about freely, both ladies and the fellas, because we got to be able to support our partners through life. You understand? So thank you very much for listening to this episode, and stay tuned to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.